On the evening of November 27, 2024, the tranquility of Houston's bustling airline drive was shattered by a horrifying act of violence. In a room at the Moonlight Inn, a modest motel known for its quiet clientele, Alicia Michele Strambler, a 34-year-old mother of three, was brutally murdered. The perpetrator? Her husband, Myron Lynn Strambler, a man with a long history of violence and abuse. This is the story of a relationship marred by control and fear, a crime that shook a community, and the relentless quest for justice. Alicia Michele Strambler was known for her unwavering warmth and resilience, qualities that shone brightly even amidst the shadows of her difficult life. Born and raised in a working-class neighborhood of Houston, Texas, Alicia spent much of her life in the city she called home. She lived in an area often described as humble but vibrant, where close-knit communities worked hard to support one another. Alicia found comfort in the familiarity of her surroundings, drawing strength from the relationships she built with neighbors and friends who admired her for her kindness and generosity. As a mother of three, Alicia's world revolved around her children. Friends and family described her as a woman who gave everything to ensure her kids had a stable and loving environment. Her days were filled with the challenges of balancing work and home life, yet she approached each day with quiet determination. Whether it was attending school events, helping with homework, or simply spending quality time together, Alicia's focus never wavered. She shielded her children as best she could from the turbulence of her marriage to Myron Strambler, often telling friends, "They deserve a life better than this." Behind Alicia's soft-spoken demeanor lay a strength forged through hardship. She had faced adversity throughout her life but remained resolute in her goal of providing her children with opportunities she never had. Her work ethic was tireless, taking on jobs wherever she could find them to keep her family afloat. Despite her struggles, Alicia never complained, often saying, "As long as my kids are happy, that's all that matters." Yet, beneath the surface of her resilience, there were cracks that spoke of the fear and anxiety she carried every day. Alicia's marriage to Myron was marred by years of escalating violence and control. Friends recalled moments when she seemed distant, her usual lighthearted nature replaced by a quiet tension. Over time, Alicia became more withdrawn, confiding in only a select few about the true extent of her suffering. She expressed her longing to escape the cycle of abuse, but struggled to see a way out. Her decision to stay in Houston, despite the dangers posed by her relationship with Myron, was rooted in her love for her children. She believed they needed stability and continuity, particularly in their schooling and friendships. Alicia often told her sister, "I don't want them to feel like they're losing everything because of me." This sense of sacrifice defined much of Alicia's life, as she bore the brunt of her husband's volatility to shield her kids from the worst of it. The Moonlight Inn, located in the 5,200 block of Airline Drive, was far from the warmth of home that Alicia Strambler had spent her life trying to create for her children. Known for its unassuming appearance and transient clientele, the motel served as a temporary escape for locals and travelers alike. On that fateful night, a 911 call brought Houston police officers to the motel at 6:15 p.m., responding to reports of a violent domestic disturbance. What they found was chilling. Myron Strambler stood outside the room, his shirt soaked in blood, a macabre sign of the brutality that had unfolded just moments earlier. Unlike many perpetrators, Myron made no attempt to flee. Instead, he stood calmly and admitted to harming Alicia, his cold demeanor sending shivers through the responding officers.
Well, Daniela and Keith, Houston police found Myron Strambler covered in blood when they responded to that North Houston motel and then found his wife dead inside. Tonight, her family wants to ensure there's no way he gets out of jail after a history of domestic violence against his wife.
Inside the room, the scene was one of utter chaos and horror. Furniture was overturned, and shards of glass glittered on the blood-spattered floor, a stark testament to the violence that had erupted. The walls bore streaks of blood, evidence of the brutal struggle that had taken place. Alicia's lifeless body lay crumpled on the bathroom floor, her face partially obscured by her hair, now matted with blood. The disarray of the room hinted at her desperate fight for survival, a fight she tragically lost. The medical examiner later confirmed that Alicia died from blunt force trauma, her injuries speaking to the sheer savagery of the attack. Myron had struck her repeatedly with his fists, using such force that they were classified as deadly weapons. He had slammed her head against the wall with such brutality that the indentations remained as silent witnesses to the crime. An unknown object, later found at the scene, was also used to inflict further injuries, leaving no doubt about the deliberate nature of the assault. The events leading up to the murder paint a grim picture of escalating abuse. Alicia and Myron had reportedly been arguing throughout the day. Witnesses later stated that Myron appeared increasingly agitated, his temper flaring over trivial matters. The couple's history of domestic disputes, combined with Myron's criminal past, suggested that the violence that erupted in the motel room was not an isolated incident, but the culmination of years of control, manipulation, and rage. Myron's behavior on the night of the crime was particularly chilling. After the attack, he called family members and confessed to what he had done. These relatives, horrified by his admission, immediately contacted the police, leading to Myron's swift arrest. His calm demeanor during the arrest underscored the calculated nature of his actions, leaving investigators and the community grappling with the senselessness of the crime. The Houston Police Department's North Patrol Division quickly secured the crime scene, gathering evidence and interviewing witnesses. Investigators discovered that Myron had a history of escalating violence, with previous charges indicating a dangerous pattern of behavior. Forensic evidence from the motel room, including blood spatter patterns and Alicia's injuries, painted a clear picture of the brutality she endured. Police also uncovered troubling details about Myron's past. His 2009 conviction for the sexual assault of a 14-year-old girl in Brazoria County and his 2021 charge for domestic assault against Alicia added weight to the prosecution's argument for premeditation. Myron's criminal record painted a chilling portrait of a man whose violent tendencies had been left unchecked for far too long. Alicia's death has left an unfillable void in the lives of her 3 children, who now face an uncertain future without their mother. Alicia's family expressed profound grief and anger following her tragic death. In interviews, they described her as a loving mother and a kind soul who endured immense hardships to protect her children. Her sister, in a tearful statement, said, "Alicia was selfless. She gave everything for her kids, and she deserved so much better than this." Her family also called for justice, emphasizing the need for systemic changes to better support victims of domestic violence. "We want people to know her story, to see what happens when abuse goes unchecked," one family member stated. They also pledged to honor Alicia's memory by advocating for stronger protective measures and support systems for those in abusive relationships. Myron Strambler has been charged with first-degree murder and is currently held at the Harris County Jail without bond. Prosecutors have described the crime as exceptionally brutal, emphasizing that Myron's actions were both intentional and premeditated. Charging documents detail how he repeatedly struck Alicia with his fists, slammed her head against the wall, and used a blunt object to inflict further injuries, actions that left no room for doubt about his intent to kill, warranting the denial of bond. Initially, Myron's bond had been set at $250,000. However, following a motion from the prosecution, the judge raised the bond amount significantly before ultimately denying it altogether. As the case heads to trial, it has become a focal point for domestic violence advocacy groups, who view the decision to increase the bond as a positive step toward holding offenders accountable. Alicia's story has been cited as a stark reminder of the dangers victims face when abusers are not adequately monitored or detained. The prosecution has indicated that they will push for the maximum penalty, arguing that Myron's actions were deliberate, calculated, and deserving of the harshest consequences. Alicia's story is a harrowing reminder of the devastating impact of domestic violence. Her tragic death underscores the urgent need for systemic change to protect victims and hold abusers accountable. Advocates are calling for increased resources for survivors, including access to shelters, counseling, and legal support, to help prevent similar tragedies in the future.